So starting around the time, well, one could even go right back to 3000 BC, to Babylonia, Sumeria, where the origins of astrology began. And then, of course, ancient Egypt. And they saw the world geocentrically. So they saw the world with themselves at the center. And that still applies today. In fact, the secret to enlightenment is to understand the world is at your center. You are at the center of your own world. We're not, when I look around in where I am now, I look around my space around me, and it creates my reality, and my consciousness fires off on everything around me. Okay. And I think you hopefully will agree the same. Where you are is the center of your world. You are at the center of your sense of being is at your center. And this goes right back to, if you look at ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and how they lived, they were at their center as well. And all the ancient art that we've discovered from archaeology and various things. So if we then sort of jump a bit towards the time of, say, the Greek philosophers, we go to, say, Plato, sort of 200 BC, and Aristotle. And this was the origin of when astrology as an actual art form really started to be created. This is when they actually started using the mathematikos, the math to create astrology. So in Greek, the word mathematics, or math, the origin of the word mathematikos is the order of my thinking. That's actually what it means.
Oh,
the
wow.
order of my thoughts. And so mathematicians was an early word for an astrologer, because they work with numbers. So they were working with numbers and all these calculations and various things they were calculating. But it actually started to become a symbolic representation. So they started to draw charts and create charts. But they were coming from their geocentric center. Then there was a chap called Ptolemy, who around about 70 AD started to, in fact, I'll stay with Plato and Aristotle for a minute. So the phase between 200 BC to 0 AD kind of thing was, if you read Plato, or you understand anything about Plato, he talked about how the perfect shape and form of the human form is spherical, is to be inside a sphere. We are inside a sphere of our own making. Our actual created manifestation is spherical. And I'm going to show you an experiment later that shows you that and proves that to you in a spiritual way. And that's actually the key to what's going to make this talk really exciting, because I'm going to show you the sphere and you're going to be like, oh my God. And if you haven't got it, because it's going to show you how to go geocentric. Now, we are in a phase at the moment, you might have heard people talking about Pluto and Aquarius. It's a big shift in humanity's consciousness. And so we are moving into this new phase. And I do believe the next 20 years is going to be the proper fusing and together of spirituality with science. And of course, astrology is going to feature in that. They just cannot deny astrology again anymore. A good metaphor for understanding how astrology and science interact with each other is like science is a teenage kid, is a teenager who goes, oh God, I'm so embarrassed of my parents. I can't have them around at all. Yeah. So I'm going to go to the other room, or I'm going to try and get away from them. No, they're not mine. They're not mine. Says the kid, right? Who's the scientist? Who's science? Because science has been around for 400 years. Yeah. Astrology has been around for millennia. So astrology is the parents of science. Yeah. And science is growing up trying to define itself. Excuse me, but I'm science, says science, and I'm nothing to do with those old people over there. Yeah. Well, actually, the more science grows up, the more science realizes that it must acknowledge its parents and it must integrate with them and have a proper relationship with them. So there's a metaphor to understand what we're heading towards. Yeah, eventually science will grow up and say, oh yeah, sorry about that, folks, I do actually need you in my life. You understand what I'm saying, right? So that's basically what we need to see and understand, is that science at the moment is still acting like a disrupted, rebellious teenager
That
to
because it
created it.
sees itself completely independent as a separate Earth, away from the galaxy.
Yes, yeah. Well, scientists pick things apart to understand it. Yeah, so they don't see the spirituality. They don't see the unity of or oneness in everything.
Mm.
But this is not. I'm not here to do a talk on science and spirituality so much today. It's just to show you some spirituality, some spiritual techniques, okay, which will hopefully help you piece together a bit more of your own understanding. Okay, I'm just another human being, and we all have our own. There's nothing special about this, but I will show you something that really is that blew my mind, and I love what I do. I love what I'm doing by mixing astrology with spirituality. I think I've hit upon something really special. So I'm just here to show it, And so to go back to the idea of Plato understanding that the human, the creator, created mankind as the idea of being inside a sphere, and then around about 70 AD there was a Roman astrologer called Ptolemy, spelled Ptolemy, Ptolemy, silent P at the beginning. Ptolemy wrote a book called the Tetrabiblos, which was an astrology book. And the astrology book basically charted out what this picture that you're seeing now on the screen. And so this was the spheres, or the music. This is what came from Pythagoras. And Pythagoras was 600 BC. Pythagoras was 400 BC, 400 years before Plato. But this is basically how the Greek philosophers saw the world for a good, from 600 BC onwards. But the music of the spheres is also in this image. Okay. So the idea that all the spheres are clustering around us, yeah, at our center. So we are at the center, and everything is around us in brackets of or density of consciousness. So I'm here to show you how to access this image, which there are many, many images like this. You can go to any ancient library, any old library and things, and there's lots of different interpretations of the spheres. But this is geocentric. So as you can see here, you have the four elements at the center. So in astrology, we have the four elements of the world: fire, earth, air, and water. And that was Plotinus who set that up in the 5th century, again 500 years before, in BC. And so everything in the world was made up of four elements, which eventually, of course, became the periodic table of elements. So in chemistry now, you've got the 100 plus elements, but their root basis is earth, air, fire, and water. And so as you can see here, you've got a bit of an image. The earth is like a little island with a house and some trees, a little hill, and some more trees here and islands and things. And then water, of course, which surrounds earth. Earth is the most heaviest of the elements. So earth goes to the very bottom of things. If you take a stone and you drop it firstly it goes down. If you drop it into water, it goes down under the water. So earth is the solid base, the most grounded, heaviest element. And then on top of that, you have water, which flows over earth. So in this image you can see here, you've got little streams and a little lake and a pond and the sea, oceans and seas, all surrounding the earth and being on top of it, like the water on top of and flowing across it. So water flows over earth, water being another heavy element. So there's two heavy elements and two lighter elements. So earth at the base, water on top. Then we have the dividing line, and we have air on top of water. And air is, in this image, is like, you can see these like kind of curling, spiraling clouds. That little thing, they look like movement of clouds and the movement of air. This is breeze, the wind, the air. And when air feeds fire. Okay. So the outermost of the four elements is fire. So rarefied air becomes fire. Which is where the flames and air rises, because air is rising upwards. It's moving all around us all the time, and so it's rising upwards. And fire, flames, heat rises as well. Okay, so you have water and earth that are downwards, and air and fire are upwards. And in the human expression, in our bodies, in our corporeal material bodies, we discover earth and water as inward and downward feelings. We feel inwards and downwards with earth and water, and we feel upwards and outwards with fire and air. And each person is combinations of the four elements. So sometimes you get someone who's very fiery. Sometimes you get people who are very earthy. Sometimes you get people who are very watery, etc., and combinations of the different. So this is a basic lesson in astrology. But it's also understanding that our body, our temperament, our form, has a four-element basis to it. Everybody with me so far?
Yeah. The temporal world.
Exactly. The body is the temple. Yeah, yeah. So a quick metaphor for how air feeds fire. You go to the blacksmith's forge and you've got the bellows, yeah, which blow air onto the flames to make it hotter. Yeah. So when you look at this, you can actually see almost like the air feeding the fire. Yeah, it feeds the flame. Yeah. So this is together, the four elements make up the corporeal world. Okay. Now, this corporeal world is governed by the five senses, because our bodies receive everything through the five senses. Okay, everyone got that? So we've got like touch, and then we've got taste, smell, sight, hearing. Yeah. So the five senses feed in constantly. Okay, but where are what they're tuned into is, well, yeah. We then reach this outermost sphere called the sphere of the moon. So we are under the influence of the moon. So we're in what is called the sublunary sphere. So everything happens underneath the moon. So when we are born, we are born through the influence of the planets. We descend, soul descends through the planets and comes through the moon. So that's why moon is very much associated with fertility, with birth, with motherhood, with sustaining and nurturing, because it's to do with the beginning of life. And so the sublunar sphere is the encasement that we are in, and everything comes through the moon. So the moon has a constant changes of faces. It never stays the same because it is constantly changing. It's because the world we are in is constant change. Because we are born, we grow up, we live our lives, we grow old, and we die. Yeah. So the world we are living in is impermanent. We live in the impermanence, which is a Buddhism understanding. Impermanent change. Nothing stays the same. I'm going to be older tomorrow than I am right now. Yeah. Right. So is everybody, but this is what happens. What happens here inside this realm, in the realm of the four elements of the corporeal world, materialistic world. The spirit, is the spirit and the soul spirit and soul is everywhere, and it creates form. Okay. So at conception, form begins to be created. So that comes, so spirit is everywhere, right? But spirit creates form. So that what makes us. So this is the Greek philosophy, okay? So it's like, we can say, oh yeah, but the soul incarnates into the body. That's a term of reference. That's very 20th century, right? If you go back to Greek philosophy, which is 2,000 years ago, they say that spirit is everywhere, and then spirit connects to then create form. Spirit connects to the form to then grow it into something, which I think is a much more interesting perspective than saying, oh yeah, I've got a body and I incarnate, my soul sort of drops into it. I think spirit's everywhere all the time, and we are spirit. And as I'm going to show you with the experiments, you'll see, because we are in fact totally at spirit all the time. Okay. So we get to the lunar, we're inside the sublunary sphere, yeah? And the moon shows us a different face every single day to remind us that we are constantly changing, okay? Now, above the moon, you have the other planets, yeah? Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, okay? Now, these never change. These are never changing, and they are perfect. And so they are the concentric spheres that make up the heavens in plural, heavens with an S on the end. So we are actually in the heavens right now. Okay. It's not just, we don't go to heaven when we die. That's an old, out of date phrase. What the new age needs to know is that we're in the heavens right now. Okay. We are existing at the center of the heavens, and that is what helps create our divine true nature. Now, when you look in the daytime, we have blue sky, yeah? That is the color of the heavens, okay? Because think about it like this, right? The planet we are on, the sphere we're standing on, 2 feet on the ground, right? We're existing on a sphere that is rotating on its own axis. So the planet we're on turns on its own axis. Everyone agrees with that, right? 24 hours, we have a 24-hour cycle of time, yeah? Of which half is daylight and half is nighttime, yeah? The sun rises in the morning and shows us this beautiful sky, yeah? This beautiful blue sky. Then in the evening it sets, yeah? And it vanishes and the sky goes dark, yeah? And then next morning it'll come up again. And that is predictable pattern. It's what we're used to. It's what is eternally granted to us. So basically, what's actually happening is the planet is turning, yeah? And when sunset happens and the sky goes dark, it's because the planet that is turning has turned its face away from the sun, okay? So where we're standing, it's why time zones exist. It's why we stand and we go around the other side. At nighttime, it's our sleeping time, yeah? But we turn around, the planet turns and we don't see the sun, yeah? But then the planet turns and suddenly it appears again and the sky goes blue again, which can lead to the question, what color is the heavens? Well, the heavens are in fact blue, and they never go out because it's the earth that's turning, right? So the heavens are always this, we are constant. So here's the phrase, we are constantly bathed in the heavenly light. It just so happens though that because the planet's turning, we have to experience the night side, the dark side, the shadow side is when it goes round the back. But what we're then looking at when we look at the night sky and we see all those stars and we see the moon, yeah, and we see all those stars, those are reflections of the sun's light back to us because it's on the other side. But the shadow casting it into the night sky means we don't see that beautiful blue. that beautiful blue is all the time. Now, this is a very ancient astrological secret. Not even a secret, really. It's just something that people don't think about, but it's true. And you just have to think about it. The sun never goes out. The sun does not go out, right? We just don't see it. So we live in the blue all the time. We're in this beautiful blue light all the time, right? The heavens are constantly lit up, which is actually quite elevating, isn't it, in consciousness? Because it makes me feel different when I thought about it. Maybe want to skip around the garden a bit. I was like, wow, that's amazing. You know what I mean? So there's a thought, just a thought, So here we are, right? And we're on this surface, and we've got these concentric rings around us of consciousness. At our very center, we have a pure form of awareness, because at the moment of birth, when we're born, we take our first breath and we suddenly appear in this world because we're suddenly new. We enter the threshold of birth. We come through into this world and we're like, oh, hello, here's a new world, here's a new experience. And what we actually receive, what we actually realize we are, is pure awareness. Now, of course, you can't tell the infant that, at birth, oh, hi, you're just pure awareness. It doesn't make any sense, is it? This is for us to understand as we develop. We start with pure awareness at our center. So we start as a pure state of awareness, which is basically saying, I am alive, I exist, I am in a form of being. Here I am, I breathe, with pure awareness, okay? Now, breath, of course, creates life. So my awareness is constantly fed by my breath. The ancients called this pneuma, which is another silent P, like Ptolemy, but it's P-N-E-U-M-A, pneuma. Or I think maybe if it's silent P, you can call it pneuma or neuma, maybe. I still haven't personally quite worked out how to pronounce it, but I think a lot of people call it pneuma, so I shall call it pneuma. But that is the Greek philosophers again talking about the spirit of life through the breath. Okay, so I breathe in, and that creates that energy that creates my life. If I don't breathe, what happens? I black out. So I lose my sensory connections. But I breathe, and it's all coming, the color, the light, the sound, the hearing, the taste, the touch, everything is constantly animated. Animus, animate, to animate is a Latin word meaning life. Animation, where the word animation comes from, is anima, is like to do with life. Okay, so it's like this. So by breathing, I'm constantly creating my existence. But the basis of that is awareness. There's an awareness at the very center, and I'm about to show you that. This is what we're doing today. I'm getting there slowly, hopefully giving you plenty of insights on the way. So we have these concentric rings of consciousness. Now they're all interlocking and they're all crystalline. So they're crystalline interlocking rings of consciousness, which are the 7 planets that you're seeing on this image here. The 7 planets, they sort of move around us, and they are measurable. Why is, and I'm not a mathematician here, by the way, but have you all heard of pi, right? 3.1415926, etc., etc. So what is the fraction of pi? Is 22 over 7. Do you know what I'm talking about? The pi calculation, fraction, 22 line 7, 22 over 7. And I'm not a mathematician, so I can't answer math questions, but I will just tell you one thing. How many planets are in the spheres here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 22 over 7 means that every planet has a certain 7 planets. So that's the number 7, and pi is a number that can never be solved, right? Because it's a movement of consciousness. Pi is a movement of consciousness from the awareness outwards. So each sphere is a constantly moving fraction, like a fractal. It's a piece of the whole being, So it's like this movement of spheres around us is how our consciousness moves. And each one has a different type of density. I'm telling you all this now because I'm about to show you the experiments, and the experiments are then going to put all this into context, because I'm just suddenly going to go, now we're going to try this, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. So, but just move with me for a minute, this idea that we live in these interlocking crystalline spheres of consciousness around us. Okay. So my thoughts constantly project outwards into the world around me. I put my attention is always going out. It very rarely goes inwards. Yeah. Until I've worked out how to do it. I'll show you how we're going to do that in a minute. But it's about putting our attention outwards, and that's the seven into the seven spheres. So in the room I'm in now, I'm always looking at things, different spaces, different things. If I walk down the high street, or take a walk on the beach, for example, you know, I can look down at the pebbles and the sand, which is very quite close by. Look a bit further away, and I can see the rolling waves on the beach. I look further away across the horizon, I can see a ship. Yeah, these are like different layers of consciousness, but they're all appearing to me in my space around me. They're manifesting in my space around me. These things are appearing. The perspective, but it could be just well, I'll show you in a moment with the experiment. Now, the seven spheres, these are named after the 7 days of the week. Okay, so today is Sunday, the day of the sun. Tomorrow is Monday, the day of the moon. In French, it's lundi, lundi. And then yesterday was Saturday, Saturn Day. Yeah. And if you flip to some of the other romantic languages, Spanish, Italian, Latin, of course, but you can also go to Celtic languages like Welsh. Yeah, you can see the Gaelic. They all have the planets in their names. So let's just go across to French to explain that Mars Day in English is called Tuesday, but in French is Mardi, M-A-R, Mardi, Mars Day. And then in French, Wednesday is Mercury Day, Mercury Day, or miércoles in Spanish, miércoles. And then Thursday is Jupiter Day, is jeudi in French, jeudi. In Spanish, I believe, is Jueves. And then Friday is Vendredi in French, Venus Day, which in Spanish is anyway, you get the idea. But you can do that in Gaelic. You can also do it in Japanese, and you can also do it in Hinduism. They're named after the planets. So basically, the whole world has got the 7 days planets hidden as planets, and this is the movement of time. So the movement of time is the movement of consciousness, because the planets govern consciousness. So this constantly moving fractal kind of space around us, yeah, is our consciousness moving, which is the flow of thoughts as well. But how to access that is to understand how time works. So today is the day of the sun. It would be a day to communicate with sun thoughts or sun thinking. And there's specific moments of time called the planetary hours. And all this is in my book. But you work out times to talk to the planets. And this is how to get greater control, to manifest things, law of attraction, manifestation, and such like. So, but it's all part of the process of understanding this. So after you get to you go through the 7 spheres and you get to Saturn. So you've then got 7th heaven. Yeah. So I'm in 7th heaven, they say. Well, that's the Saturn sphere. Or you can hear it like I'm over the moon, people say. I'm over the moon. Yeah, that's right. Because when I go past the moon and I'm in the perfect spheres. Yeah. The moon is changeable, but when I'm over the moon, I'm actually in the perfect world. So I'm over the moon, very happy. 7th heaven, yeah, very, very happy. Heavens above. Oh, the heavens above, they say. But there you go. See, so heavens are above. And so you look up. Yeah. So whenever you look at Renaissance pictures and paintings and things, whenever people pointing upwards, anybody ever pointing upwards means they know a lot more than they're showing. Yeah, because this is a pointing upwards, is to say actually there's a whole lot more, and you need to look up and look out, upwards, look upwards, and for the answer. In Tibetan Buddhism, they say if you're feeling anxious, just lie down on the ground and look at the sky. Just look at it. That's it. Clears your mind. Because if you just literally lie on earth and look up, yeah, your mind will gradually clear. If you really get super heavy with anxiety and difficult thinking and all sorts, intrusive thoughts and all that sort of stuff, a very simple form of personal therapy is just to lie on the ground and look at the sky, and it'll start to clarify. You'll start to get clarity. You're calm. You think calming. It's calming. So you move up through the spheres, and then you get to the firmament, which is here on this image is spelt. It's the eighth heaven, so octa. The eighth heaven is the firmament, which is the stars. And this is a very exciting branch of astrology. Now, the ancient Arabic astrologers called this the zodiacal towers. The zodiac towers is where the archetypes lie, where the archetypes are found. And the zodiacal tower, so this is the creative imagination, and starts to really fill out at this point. So you've got basic levels of consciousness. You've got awareness at the center, which is encased by the four elements. And then you have 7 levels of consciousness and 7 planets. And then you have the firmament, which is like a sphere, like an encasement, like a sky disk of stars, yeah, which we don't see in the blue. We don't see them in the blue, but you see them at the night, yeah, when the planets turn around, you can then see the star patterns. And so, because when we're in the blue, we're in unity, yeah, we're at oneness. Everything becomes oneness. So we're at unity in the light, with unification. But at night, you can start to see it as separate things. And so the stars are these zodiacal towers of archetypes, of where we see things. So Aries, this is a symbol for Aries here. So that would be the warrior, the entrepreneur, the person who pushes forward with things. For example, you know, Pisces, the dreamer, the imaginative one, the artist, the poet, you know, and so on, you know. But these are the archetypes, okay? And then we go to the next one up, which is called the ninth heaven, Nona Coeleum, or the ninth sky, which is called the crystal sky, the crystalline sphere. And again, this is how I understand this to be refractions of light. So when you see really amazing things of like rainbows, and you see sometimes captured on photographs light rays, or even in, you know, it's how you understand light to be. Because you see, we can do light in 2 ways. Yeah. One can look at a beam of light. Yeah. So quite a good way of describing this would be, say I'm in a room and the curtains are drawn. Yeah. And I know outside it's a really lovely day, right? If I open the curtains a little bit, yeah, a beam of light comes through, like a beam, yeah. And if the room's, say, a bit dusty and stuff, you can actually see particles of dust in the light, yeah. Everyone got me with that, right? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. When you see a beam of light, that's seeing a beam of light, and I'm objectively seeing it, knowing that that's a beam of light, which is quite nice. But if I then walk to that beam of light and I stand in it, right, and I then put my face right, and I look into the beam, I actually look into the beam, my perspective changes, and I look up into the beam. It takes me through the gap in the curtains, out into that lovely, gorgeous day outside, and straight up to the sun. And then I'm in the light, because I've actually partaking to be inside of it. So that's the difference between subjectivity and objectivity with regards to light. We are actually, all of us, all the time, in the light. Because if you accept that you're in the light, right, like in it, then you're in it. You're in the heavens, yeah, the light. We are all in the light all the time. Another thought to think about, because you can be objectively say, oh, so and so's not got the light or not stand. No, we're all. Everyone's in it all the time. The heavens, the heavenly light never goes out. It's just how we perspective. What's our perspective? Yeah, how to perceive where we're at. Yeah, are we? It's to perceive it's to change our perspective so we go into it, and then we're in it, and we're in it all the time, and we never have to switch it off. That's divinity. That's like a divine connection. Even though our ego identity expresses it in a many different forms, things happening all the time, consciousness constantly flowing, thoughts constantly flowing, life is busy, etc., etc., but we're still in the light, you know. So then we get to what's called primum mobile, the 10th heaven, decimum 10. So we've got 8, 9, 10, octa nonu decimum, coelum, 10th sky, known as primum mobile. Now the primum mobile is what Dante talks about. That's our connection to the creation in Paradise, the third book of the Divine Comedy. He takes the reader through the heavens, up through the heavens, ascending up through ascending up through the different heavens, through the different spheres, and through the firmament, through the crystal heaven, and into the primum mobile. And primum mobile is the movement of God's love, or goddess's love, or creator's love, is the movement of all the other heavens through the love of God. Okay, so God's love turns all the spheres, and that's the last verse in Dante's poem in Paradise. It's the turning of the spheres. So God kind of takes the celestial hand, if you like, and gives it a little flick and gets everything rotating. Yeah, so everything's kind of moving around. Yeah, based on the movement of the creation, and we are in the creation. We're in it all the time. Yeah. So I'm just going to shut the door here. Hang on. Julie. So we're in the creation all the time, and therefore, when you're in the creation, then you can create. So you can manifest anything that you want. Anything that comes into consciousness can actually be manifested, because there's nothing to hold you back. So the primum mobile is to see that the world moves through you whilst you stay at your center. And that's what I'm now going to show you with the experiments. And beyond that, in the Latin phrase here, very roughly translated, is the empyrean. This is the word for the empyrean, which is the house, habitaculum of God, Dei, and all et omni, the elect, which are the angels. So it's the heaven, or the sky of the empyrean, which is the house of God and all the elect. So that's kind of the angels that are with the movement of creation, and everything filters down. And there's a beautiful matching here, because what comes down to us from the heavens is descending, and us as humans in our form, we are ascending. So the descending and the ascending, it's like a unity of the blending of the two. We have ascent, and they, if you like, spirit has descent. So one moves down as the other one moves up, and that's kind of the interplay between the two, which is just a beautiful thought. It's just this idea that spirit is always coming down to us, and we're moving up towards it. And there's a lovely interplay, a lovely flow or interplay between the two. So so here we are. Now I'm going to show you some really cool stuff. Is everyone enjoying this so far?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Good. Everyone, yeah? Okay, that's super. Excellent. And so let's just see now with a few experiments. Okay, so these are what are called self-evident experiments. So these are, you're doing this to yourself to understand You know, it's you recognizing the difference between awareness and consciousness in your own perspective of the world. Right now, in order to do this properly, you have to pretend that there's no zoom. You know, yes, you can see an image of yourself on the screen, but that's not the same as you mustn't. You know, don't see it as like you just need to understand that, pretend that it's not zoom. It's difficult. It's not quite difficult to do. It's not difficult, but you just have to understand that to do these experiments, you have to pretend that you're not got a camera pointed at you. Okay, all right. So experiment 1, I call this the pointing experiment. Okay, and what we're going to do is well, actually, what we're going to do is I'm going to start by saying the main introduction, the introducer to the whole thing, and it's quite enlightening just in this first phrase, is have you ever realized that you've never actually seen your own head? Right? So I'm looking around in the world now, right? I'm looking around, but I've never actually seen my own head. Yeah. I've seen it in the mirror and I see it, but I've not actually seen my own head. Right? Because not with my own eyes. Right? Because there's right? That's the first, just a thought to think about. Okay? That we have, none of us have actually ever seen our own head. Yeah, because it's well, yeah, right. So now I'm going to introduce you to the first experiment. Okay, and this is called the pointing experiment. So I need you to put like you would be pointing at something. I need you to create a pointing finger, and I want you to understand that in the space that you are in now, and in front of you and around you, is a familiar space. Okay, and what we're doing is we're understanding is how we put our attention out to different things. Yeah, so our attention is constantly moving outside of ourselves. We're constantly projecting ourselves outwards into the world around us, and it's this projection that creates consciousness. Okay, so so I want you to, in the space that you are in, the room that you're in now, I want you to point at a few things. Now, you don't have to speak aloud or anything like that, but you just acknowledge it and say what it is and what's coming up in your mind. So, for example, I'm going to point out past this screen. You know, I could see my CD player. So I'm pointing at a CD player. CD. There's a shelf of CDs. You know, and then I'm going to point at a lamp. I can see a lamp, and I can point at my lampshade up there. You know, and I can point at a bookshelves over here. Yeah, and I can point at different things. So I can point at my desk, and my keyboard, and my mouse, pens, a car. Right, I'm pointing at these different things, and everything has a name that I have given it, that I've always called it that. So I've called it a cup because it's a cup, right? It's always been a cup, but and it has a shape and a form to it. Yeah. So does the CD player. So do the CDs. So does everything. Has a shape and a form to it. As I point around, I recognize shape and form. Every single book on the bookshelf has a title that I know what's in that book. My imagination, when I point to it specifically, it jumps immediately, and I start thinking inside my consciousness the flow of what's inside that book. You know, my consciousness flows incredibly fast, right? As all of us do, right? It just, things move very quickly into the imagination's space, yeah, because it brings up expected things and memorized things. Okay, so everything goes in the world around me. I'm pointing around. So just do that with yourself for a minute or two, or less than a minute. Just do it a few times so you know what you're doing with regards to how, and recognizing that you point everything outside of yourself. Our attention goes outwards all the time. It very rarely goes inwards, right? So now I'm going to show you how to do the different direction. Firstly, I want you to point at your foot. Now I've extended my leg out here, and I'm pointing at my foot, right? I've got slippers and socks, right? I'm just pointing at it there. There they are, right? And I can say that is called my foot, and I know that's my foot. Then I want you to point at your knee, right? So I'm pointing now at my knee. I'm looking at my knee, and I can see it's got fabric, trouser, it's fabric on it, and it's got the familiar curved shape that I know to be my knee. Then I want you to point at your torso here, like the area here, right? In front of, the area that is the middle of your torso. And I say, that is my torso. I've always called that my chest, my torso, the air. I can see I've got a sort of mustardy orange jumper on, and I've got a shirt, whatever. I've got the torso, I've got my talisman on here, so I'm pointing at this area, things that I recognize. And now I want you to point your pointing finger, bring it up and point to the space that you're looking out of. So point like this at your own space that you're looking out of. So you're now holding the pointing finger and you're pointing at the space that you could call your face, but it's not your face, is it? Because it's actually the space. Do you agree with me that you're pointing at the space you're looking out of? Now, what am I actually pointing at? Am I pointing at the capacity for everything because I'm pointing at this space? I'm pointing at where everything is, but I'm pointing inwards. I'm pointing inwards. I have been pointing outwards at all these different things. But then if I turn it around and point back to point inwards, and I point back at the space I'm looking out of, what have I got? Well, I've actually got everything again, but this time I'm pointing in at everything because it's inside of me. It's in the space. Okay. So there's this whole space around me that contains the whole world. The whole world is inside the area that I'm pointing at. Because I was pointing at. Sorry, Jade.
Can you explain that again? I'm not quite getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spend my whole life pointing outside objects around me that activate my consciousness, get things move. My consciousness moves because I point at things. I'm gonna go to the kitchen and make dinner, so I'm gonna go to open the cupboards in the fridge and put all things together, and these things happen, because I go outside of myself, right? I'm objectively moving outwards all the time. So to label a few things is to recognize that I go outside of myself all the time, right? But what happens if I was to point back at myself? What do I point at? What am I recognizing?
Yeah.
Well, I go through that process, and I then put the pointing finger back to my own space, my own face. The area that I would call my face is in fact a space that actually contains the whole world. The whole world is in there. How can I describe it? Well, I can't. It's very difficult to describe the whole world.
Got you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
When I'm pointing at it. But the whole world is contained within me. It's a manifestation of what's happening in me. So, but there's no dividing line. There's no boundary to it. There's no boundary to the space I'm looking at. I'm pointing at this space, and there's no boundary, right? There's just the space. Yeah, it was exactly the same as it was before, but now I'm pointing and realizing that the space I point at is in me. So if I now take another pointing finger and go back and do like this, 2 pointing fingers each way, one pointing at me and one pointing outwards, like that. Yeah. Then there's no boundary and no dividing line in the space that is out there that I point at things around me and outside of me. But at the same time, that stuff that I'm pointing outwards is actually manifest in me because it's manifesting in my space. Okay. So now I'm in this space. That's very interesting. It's just an interesting little meditation to start to hold the basis of where we're going next. The next part of the experiment, so this is two-way pointing. So we pointed back outwards first, we pointed inwards to see that outside was inside. And now we're going to go and point, we're going to do something else. Now, the next part of the experiment is we're going to close our eyes. Having pointed back at this space of infinity, because the whole world, which is infinite, is inside my space here. But now, if we close, I'm now going to ask you to close your eyes. And when your eyes are closed, I want you to keep them closed for a couple of minutes while I go through an experiment with you. Okay? So on the count of 3, I'm going to say close your eyes. And then I want you to close your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes too. Right? So 3, 2, 1. Now close your eyes and keep them closed. So now you're just listening to me. Okay? Now, when you've closed your eyes, would you agree? Can you measure the space now? There's no measurement anymore, but you're inside a vast space, yeah? Which is the infinite mind, yeah? Because with no measurement in here, how big is the inside of my eyes closed space? Well, it's infinite, yeah? It's like being inside outer space, but it's inner space. So I'm now in this inner space, and can I say how tall I am in my inner space? No, I could be the size of a skyscraper. Can I say the distance between my left and my right hands? No, I'm aware of the sensation of having having some form of sensory fields activated, but I can't measure them. I can't even tell you how many fingers I've got on my hands. I just know that there's a sensory fields there that are fully activated. Can I count the number of toes on my feet? No, I just know that there's something there. I'm sitting in a chair. Can I call it a chair? Well, I don't know. Not really, because it's just this thing. I'm receiving a set of sensory things that I can't necessarily say that that's a chair because I'm not looking at it anymore. So can I say, can I measure left and right? No, I can't. Can I measure up and down? No, I can't. Can I measure forwards and backwards? No, I can't. But I'm inside this space. Now, very interestingly, when we sleep, this is the space we are in. So this is our dreaming space as well. And when you have a good and active dream, so much is going on in there. It's like being in its own world. You go into a world. So you're in your dreaming space right now, but you're awake but in your dreaming space. So it's like a whole ability to have this whole field of infinity. How far does my mind move? I just know that it moves around inside this space. So, but when you listen to things like, say, I go down to the local park and I can listen to all the bird song, yeah, in the trees and in the shrubbery, I can hear birds singing, different types of birds. If I did this with my eyes closed, the bird song would just be landing into this infinite space with eyes closed, yeah. Even just listening to my voice now, it's just my voice lands into the space. You can't necessarily have to attach it to anything. But same with any sound, it just lands in there. So same with touch as well. So if you now with keeping your eyes closed, take your hands, put them together and rub them together. Now you're not looking at your hands because you've kept your eyes closed, but you're receiving a sensory field, right? You're receiving something, yeah? Take one hand and grip it tight, yeah? Grip it, yeah? And make a grip shape and grip it, and you can feel the grip. You can feel the tension in that grip, but you feel it as a. It's not. It's just a sensation, yeah. So all these things are happening and manifesting, but actually, it's a very vast, beautiful space that you're in. Yeah, you spend half your time in here anyway because of sleep. So, you know, it's this beautiful, vast space. Now, we were told, or we're taught early in the 20th century, people were taught about creation, you know, like the Big Bang, you know, in the beginning, there was nothing. There was nothing. There was no thing. There was no thing, nothing. And out of nothing, suddenly everything appeared, a Big Bang, yeah, and creation happened. And you can also look at creation myths, all the different creation myths, the flood, all these different things, okay? They're like where manifestation suddenly happens, something new and suddenly occurs and happens. So taking all those in mind and thinking about things like that, I want you to now, on the count of 3, open your eyes, because we're going to have a big bang moment. Okay, so ready for your big bang moment. Before I just do this though, just remember, when I said pointing, when we did the pointing experiment first, we were pointing back at the space we were in. We noticed that we were in an infinite space with our eyes open. We've now done the same infinite space with our eyes closed. So we've recognized that we're inside and or part of or creating, and there's an infinite space that we are in. So on the count of 3 now, we'll do our own, each of us do our own big bang or our flood moment. Okay. So 3, 2, 1, open your eyes. And suddenly everything appears again, right? Exactly as it was. That's the big bang, right? That's like the idea that there was nothing, there was no thing, and then there was everything. Yeah, because suddenly everything comes back, and now I've got all my space, my measurement, the space around me, the chair returns, my hands are back, all the objects, everything's back to normal as exactly as it was before. But it also is contained within an infinite space. There's that infinite space around me is now full of embellishments, of things, objects that trigger my consciousness. Because what I was doing beforehand was recognizing that I was pure awareness at my center with no measurement, no space, but infinity. And then awareness as well stays the same. With my eyes open, I've still got the awareness. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, good.
Okay. So this is that space that I am in. Yeah. Now, the next experiment is to really start to define the difference between awareness and consciousness. Okay. So I'm now going to ask you to do my favorite experiment. This is also what I call the opening of the third eye, because the third eye, people refer to it as being this space here, or maybe inside, or, you know, yeah, okay, that's great. But I'm going to show you a slightly different type of third eye. This is the what I would call the third eye of enlightenment and enlightenment. So I want you to take both hands and make a pair of like a pair of binoculars and put them on. So put a pair of binoculars on like this and look around your space around you and recognize that you've always and agree and acknowledge with yourself that you have always seen the world through 2 apertures, through this pair of eyes, like apertures. There they are. And I look around the world and it's wonderful. What a lovely space that I'm in with my 2 eyes. But then I want you to start to spread the fingers and thumbs apart like this to create a little bit more of a space here. Yeah. And then you can start to see here that you're creating some space and starting to widen the hands a bit more. And you create the space here and you bring the elbows down to bring the hands to the side here. And you can start to see, actually, my hands are on the edge here of my vision, of my periphery, of my visual periphery here. And then I can bring them around like as an edge. There's an edge where they appear. If I bring my hands backwards, pull your hands back so you can't see them and they vanish. Yeah. Now, I am aware that my hands are there, but consciously, I can't actually see them. But I am aware that they're there, but consciously, I can't see them. Now, bring them forwards again slowly so they reappear on the edge. And I wave my fingers, and I can see my fingers on the periphery, on the edge, waving them back at myself. Hello, hands. They've reappeared again in my consciousness. That's nice. And now I want you to bring your hands up around the edges to create the fact that the hands are at an edge. There's an edge around everything. There's this wonderful edge. And what shape is that edge? It's a sphere. It's a sphere, right? I'm inside of a sphere. Here it is. There's an edge and it's a sphere. If I look down, when I look down, I can see my torso, right? but then it finishes. Yeah, there's a point where it just vanishes. I can't see my own chin. Can't see my chin. Vanishes into the space. Yeah. So there's this beautiful space, a sphere around me. How big is the sphere? Well, I was talking about this idea of the seven spheres of consciousness. How big are they? Well, they're actually infinite, because we realize you're in a space that's infinite. So it stretches out, stretches back. We call it very close quarters. You know, the moon, very close. You know, and then it stretches out to outer limits to the whole world. The whole world fits inside the space, and I'm in it, and I'm in this sphere, and this sphere is like a frameless window, or a single eye, or a third eye, because I have my two eyes, 1, 2, and then I went 2 eyes, and then I went, opened up and found a third eye, which, when I unify the space around me and I take in all the light of the heavens, then my third eye opens, and it's a sphere, just like an eye. So I look into the world through my single or my third eye into the space around me, which encompasses all of the light. So it's all around me, and I'm in it, which is rather nice, really.
So
Yeah.
does that mean that the planets are inside us because we're looking out? If we're in the middle, if we're the eye in the center of the earth there in the diagram, essentially in our infinite space, which we can't measure, it's all inside of us.
We're the perfect mirror. We are the perfect mirror of the universe. As above, so below. You've heard of that phrase?
Yeah.
Which is in, that's as above is so below, and so below is as above. As within is so without, and as without is so within. Yeah, we are, and it's the temple of the body, or the mirror of the heavens. So in Buddhism, we have the Dharmic mirror. Yeah, the mind is just a mirror. It's literally a mirror. So what manifests in us is manifesting outside of us at the same time. So with this perfect mirror is shown us by the moon, which is the moon is the mirror. The moon is that first sphere that mirrors everything back to us. So all our feelings, in astrology we call it feelings and sensory reactions and responses and feelings, is mirrored back to us immediately.
And each planet has its influence, which mirrors that particular theme in our life.
Yes, absolutely. And so yeah, we're just an empty mirror. And so the true nature of everything is emptiness, or sunya. In I think in Hinduism they call it sunya, which is nothing, the no thing. But we're also we are nowhere, or now and here, here, no, NOWHERE. Spells nowhere, but you can also, it's also here and now, because we're in the very present moment. When you're now and here, there's no thing as well. So we're in the nothing. We're in this perfect mirror. Yeah. The perfect mirror is how to communicate to the gods, communicate to the planets, because now you'll see them manifesting as forms of consciousness. So it all flows around the edges, because you've got that beautiful kind of hatch that's edge that I'm inside of. But I don't move anywhere. I am at my center. I am at my center of my world. Yeah. And I don't move. Yeah. So when I'm walking along, the world is moving through me, and I don't go anywhere at all. Yeah. If I go and sit on an underground train in a big city, I get on the train, I sit on a seat, and the doors close. I'm at a station. I go to the train. The doors close. I sit on a seat, and then the train, and then the next station appears within me, because I haven't moved anywhere, because I've sat still.
Yeah, it's like the hologram theory, because you're just moving through different parts of, well, you're not moving as such, but the hologram's moving as you shift your orientation.
Correct. And so driving is a great one. I mean, I do this all the time. I do the single eye when I'm driving. I go to that space.
Yeah.
Because am I moving? Well, I'm sat in a seat, right? And the world is moving through me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes me wonderful alert, long drives, and also to do that third eye space. And everything just flowing around the edges. It's quite beautiful, really. You know, the world just flows through me constantly.
Yeah.
But that can be walking down the high street as well. It can be walking down in town, you know, and the world just flowing through me. And it's very peaceful. It's very calming to go straight to your center, and it alleviates. I personally believe it's alleviated huge problems. I don't have a past anymore. Just, you know,
You're in the moment, aren't you? If it's
you're in the
going
moment.
through you, you're just living the moment of that experience.
Exactly.
The world moves through you.
And it just helps. It just helps. It's just, and it is actually, this is in fact the key to enlightenment. You go to India, you know, this recognition of awareness at center. And now if you meditate with this, if you do proper mindfulness meditation or follow the breath, yeah, going in and out through the nose, proper meditation, sitting on a meditation cushion, silent, quiet space, and just focus on the breath, yeah, and watch thoughts arising, yeah, and thoughts arising is consciousness flowing, yeah, but in my awareness, I'm not going anywhere, right? I'm just sat in one place, yeah, but that flow of consciousness. Now you combine that with these experiments, and you really fast track to enlightenment because you're there straight away. And I did quite a lot. Well, you know, I'm quite slack really, but I did a fair amount of meditation retreats over the years and things until I discovered these experiments. And then I realized, oh my goodness, well, this is much faster this way. And then I realized that it was like combine it with astrology, and you have this. See? So because astrology explains this sphere, it explains this space, and it explains why the consciousness is so full of different subject matter that just seems to flow. And that's the planetary hours. It's the choosing the hours of the planets when things are particularly specific. You also have planetary minutes, but to try and explain people planetary minutes, and you're starting to refine it right down to, you know, to points that it's very difficult to track. But you can say, oh, there's going to be an hour of the day when it's going to be very Venus ruled or very Mars ruled, or you know. But yeah, there are planetary minutes as well. But that really is picking apart the fractal, you know. But
so do the constellations move, however? We don't go anywhere, but do those, I know you said the planets stay fixed, but do the stars move?
Everything's moving all the time, yeah,
right.
But we have a fixed place at our center.
Yeah.
And before this, for 400 years, humanity has seen itself as going around the sun, yeah, which made everything off kilter, which is why we're so out of touch with nature. We're so out of touch with cycles of time, and we're not unified with the universe as a one central thing, yeah, because we're not at our centers at the moment. And we need to redefine being at our center again. And when we do that, then we get unity, unification, and one consciousness. And then we'll start to realize that nature is appearing in us. So each season, we're about to spring. The season of spring is about to happen. We've got about 2.5 weeks left of winter. Yeah. And on March 21st, spring starts. And spring will be manifesting in me, right? Because I'll go into my garden and I'll see all these plants coming alive with spring buds and things popping out everywhere, and the growth and the uplift. But in my consciousness, I will feel uplifted as well, because my zodiacal tower of, you know, the beginning of spring is the equinox, you know, equal day, equal night. It's the beginning of the sign of Aries, which is the beginning of spring. and that's the uplift. It's a fiery element. It's like push uplift, yeah, feeling like more, like, and that as I see it in the world around me manifesting in me, yeah, then I feel the same as well, yeah, at the same time. And that's how it's basically connecting to nature. It's like a form of, it's shamanism as well. So this is shamanistic, it's Buddhism, it's spirituality, it's all the things. And it's what gets me more than anything else is we have so many people talking about all these different things, and this is to me the Greek philosophers really knew what they were doing. They really had a kind of a very clear understanding of consciousness and awareness, and sometimes I think there's a lot of trying to work it out when it's actually a lot easier, or maybe because it's still the great mystery. This is the great mystery, and we're not here to, you can't solve the mystery, yeah. There's only speculation, which leads to things people, all the different conspiracy theories and all the different things in the world, because people don't have this manifestation of the spheres. Yeah, they don't see that at the moment. If everybody knew this, then conspiracy theories would be thrown out as an outdated concept, because this is a formula structure for understanding the world. It's not it is the great mystery that we're not meant to solve, but I do believe we are spirit that manifests, and we always stay spirit. Spirit never dies. Yeah, so we're just going to be, we're constantly, now you've done this and you recognize this, well, you're going to be you're an immortal soul, immortal spirit, because you realize that your spirit is a mirror. Yeah, and it's just beautiful, incredible. It's so simple, and that's just it, manifesting all the time in the here and now, and manifesting this space around me.
So the key is to be present with what's manifesting through at that precise moment.
With the breath. And this is where mindfulness comes in, meditation.
And so the different influences that are manifesting are bringing us different experiences or different levels of awareness in our life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if it's a Sunday,
yeah, so you can then use it accordingly. So on the day of the sun, you can use, attuning to one's purpose. It's very much the sun is very much to do with ego, identity, and purpose, manifestation of everything. The sun's in the middle of the array, quite interestingly. If you look at the map here, you've got the 7 spheres, and we have the planets between us. So here we are on Earth, and you have the Moon, Mercury, and Venus, and those are the planets that are in between us and the sun. Yeah. Okay, so these are called in Latin inferior. The inferior planets are Moon, Mercury, and Venus. Yeah, because they're between us and the sun. Then you have the sun, and then you have the planets superior to the sun, out past the sun, which is Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Yeah. Oh, look, there you go. I forgot I've got a slideshow. So this is the ancient way of seeing the world. There we are at the center, and all the planets are. This is like the crystalline spheres. Everything's interlocking around us. Yeah, but we are at center. Now, I know I'm not here to dispute science. Yes, the likelihood, science says we are going around the sun. But this is a map, a mental map. This is a map of imagination. This is how imagination works, how consciousness works, how to have a mental map of the mind, the imago, as the Greeks would call it, the ancient Greeks, they call it the imago. If I say to you now, tropical beach, white crystalline sand, clear blue water, and palm trees, you instantly can see that in your mind's eye. The mind's eye is the imago. You can go, oh yeah, I got that. It's like reading a book. You read a novel Yeah, and the imagery is very there all the time. So what I'm showing you today is a mind map, or a map of consciousness. And this is the law of attraction. Yeah. So this is the astrological bit, which I'm not necessarily going to show you now because I've tried to explain it to you simply, but this is bringing the chart into it. And then this is these are the eye at the center. Again, I'm bringing the chart in. Everything falls into its own place. It's an ancient medieval cosmological idea. The five senses feed into this, create the world that we're in. They help define space that we are in. And then you've got the slowest, fast. This is the density of the planets. So the moon is incredibly quick and fast. Saturn is incredibly slow and ponderous. So it's structural. Here's being at the center. So this is called the Chaldean order of planets. And then you have the phases of time in which the planets work. So the lunar phase is the first 4 years, pure awareness, starting to build consciousness, first 4 years. Then you have mercurial phase, which is learning to use the hands. And then you have Venus, which is learning to relate. And then you have the sun, which is the 20 years of solar, consciousness, really becoming someone. Then you have your Mars years, 41 to 56. Then you have your Jupiter years, 56 to 68. Your Saturn years, 68 to 98. And your moon, back to the moon again. You cycle through the 7. And then, of course, at 98, you're going to need lunar help again because you're going back to pure awareness, actually, because you're, at a certain age, things really start to break down. So this is back to the very beginning again.
So in this sense, does this connect with reincarnation astrology? Do the two work together, or do they not have to?
Yeah. I think spirit is eternal, and so reincarnation is we just take on a new. I think it's constantly moving. Sort of a constant process. We just manifest another part of our spirit is released from one physical vehicle to then redefine itself in another physical vehicle. I actually think the ancestral lines are very clear, and I think we do manifest different family members down lines, learning different lessons, have different names, different appearances, and all sorts of things. But it's the same spirit lines. I think there's not something to be said for that. So I sort of believe from a shamanistic perspective that my ancestors talk to me. Pretty certain they do. So with regards to what's happening in my consciousness, but the idea of thought manifesting outside of ourselves. So if you take a look at the ripples in water, if you take a drop of water, well, this is why the ancients created the spheres that we're in. That map I've been showing you for this whole talk is like ripples of water, that emanate from the center outwards. So you have a initial point of awareness that drops in and creates ripples that are time, move through time. So this is like awareness that goes blop, and then something creates out of that. So that's like this. So this is why I showed you the 7 spheres. When Plato was talking about mankind being inside a sphere, God created a perfect sphere for man to exist in. Well, outside of the sphere, you can see it in nature as well. Nature has the same spherical movements. It's in nature everywhere. It's everywhere.
You're not a flat earther then, are you?
No, not at all. No, we're definitely on a sphere. Not going to do. I don't subscribe to flat earth at all. But it doesn't matter anymore. When you do pure mirror, it doesn't matter, does it? Doesn't matter where you are. I'm just the world moves through me.
Yeah.
But what you're doing,
whatever shape it is,
what you're doing with your third eye opening, right, and you're finding the sphere, well, flat earthers just don't know about their own sphere. And if they did, I think they probably changed their whole attitude. That's why I said conspiracy theories will just dissolve. Yeah, because it's like, well, what is there? It just manifests in me. I can think anything I like. Yeah, flat earthers manifest that theory. They think that they're in that. They think of that. But if you don't think and you just be, then you're in the light all the time. You're in the heavens and you're manifesting your pure state of being. So just to go out to back to the idea of nature here, that there's ripples in water, tree rings. Yeah. Of course you had to cut the tree in half to see the rings, but that center point there, that's a point of awareness. And the tree started as a seed that sprouted and turned into a sapling that had an awareness of the space it was in. And then that awareness grew season after season. It keeps growing, doesn't it? Season after season. It moves through time, growing season after season. It creates its own spheres around itself. Yeah. Quite amazing, really, when you think about it. And then spiders' webs. Yeah. I mean, a spider is pure awareness. But it consciously realizes to interact with the world around it, it's going to need to be a hunter, to create a form of something that is going to help it to survive. So from awareness, it uses consciousness and creates a web. But this is like layers of consciousness. It makes a perfect ordered web. And then it sits on the edge of the web, waiting for the web to wobble. Yeah, something's in it. Oh, something's appeared. Something's appeared in its consciousness. Bing, goes to find out what it is. But I thought this is just another amazing idea of nature, how nature is. And these are the dew of the moon. This is like the moon creates dew in the mornings. Yeah. So it's the moisture of the moon, of the moon's light, creates moisture on Earth, which is the dew. So that's why I think that picture is really quite amazing. And then, of course, in Australia, you've got the Aborigines, the most ancient race. There they are. This is an image of an Aborigine guide in a national park in Australia, showing us something. Look at this ceiling. What's the ceiling showing us? Yeah. Well, it's showing us that at our center, we have a void. Yeah. The void is here. Right. The no thing. What's behind the no thing? Yeah. Pull my hands back. I've got the edge. I pull my hands back. And I've now found that I'm inside the sphere. But what is in that sphere? There's a void. There's a massive nothingness, infinity, which is eyes closed, eyes open, massive nothingness. Wonderful, right? And so it's the void. So it's clearly an empty space at the center. So this diagram, this very ancient, thousands of year old cave painting, shows that there's an empty space at the center, out of which grows all the layers of consciousness. Hopi and Navajo, yeah? Here's, because things repeat as well, so spirals, yeah? So the spheres become spirals because it repeats again and again and again. Hang on a minute, let's go back one. So Hopi and Navajo, yeah? And now what's this guy doing here? Yeah? And this one here, look at their arms. Single eye. They're saying, here's the edge. I'm at the edge. I've got the edge of my sphere. There it is. Can you see? It's open wide for the sphere, opening wide to take it all in. The worship of nature, the worship of life, of experience, of light and life and everything is right at the edges. I'm inside my sphere. And they open their arms wide. Look, it's wonderful. He's dancing. This one's dancing down here. It's like so happy. Edges of the sphere. And the sphere is created with the hands. So here's it. But if you flip that disc now, you flip that 90 degrees, and you can put it on top of his head. And that's why he's got these branches coming out the top here, because his void is also here.
I think, you know, that's one of the theories right there for flat Earth, is that they are spheres, in the sense that it's not a globe, but it's a flat disc. And there's an idea that, you know, as you see the sun coming up, it's actually a flat disc rising up and down. I don't subscribe to flat Earth. I don't know anything about it, but I just thought that was quite interesting, because, you know, when the Egyptian pharaohs all have this winged disc, they use that as part of the argument that it's just a flat sphere, which you're saying, like, there can go on the top of the head. That we're on a flat plate, as it were. We're on a disc.
This one too.
Yeah, we're on some sort of disc.
So awareness at the center. And then, like, if you take the diagram, the 7 spheres diagram, that's like each concentric sphere but laid out flat.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, you know, it's just I'm just showing you what I'm showing you, and take what you will, right? I believe, you know, do what you will, you know. I believe today I'm showing you something that I've found that's helped me a lot. And so the same kind of thing going on here is going on here. And then you've got, like, the megalithic, what are called cup and ring marks. These are a lot in the UK. You get a lot of these in the UK. And to me, this is the perspective. Stand at your center and look at the view. So, you know, look around you. Look at the space around you. So it's like standing at my center, I will look at the view, look at the horizon I'm in. So when you get these cup and ring marks, you can say, what's on the horizon? I can see trees, mountain edges, hills, lakes, and things in my horizon all the way around from that viewpoint at center. So if I stand at the center, I've got this beautiful view, or the geocentric sort of center. It's the idea of geocentricity and being at one center, awareness, the void, the hole at the center, just a pure mirror. And then you've got a place like Newgrange in Ireland, which indicates spirals again, is the indication of repetitiveness. Things happen again and again. 4 seasons in the year, they repeat every year. Because they repeat every year, it's not just one set of spheres, it's spiraling again and again and again, a year cycle. So spirals within spirals within spirals. So things are repeating all the time. And that leads to the labyrinth, which one can walk around. So again, you've got the sort of 7 layers of consciousness, and a sort of like an
This is like a fingerprint now.
It is,
We
exactly.
bring it right back down to the center again.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Chartres Cathedral, the labyrinth, you know, for pilgrims. See, this is the old pilgrimage. You know, the pilgrimage would be to connect to the divine. They would go on a pilgrimage. And what they were doing is they would go into their divine mode. They go into this mode like this, and they'd walk like that, with this edge. So they were staying at their center, and the world was moving through them. That pilgrimage, that's a proper pilgrimage to a sacred place. The sacred place is at their center, and they would just walk it and have the world move through them, to get to their sacred center. That's actually what pilgrimage is. So here in Chartres Cathedral, this connects then to, you know, the idea of pilgrimage, to find one's center. And there you go. You see, driving along. Where am I going? Well, I'm actually not moving, but the world's moving through me. You know, wow, love that. So cool. And it's just the best way. It's one of the best experiments to do. It's just wonderful. And there's space appearing between my hands. Between me is the whole world appears. Different levels. And then we have this. This is you might not have seen this. This is the Nebra sky disk. Now, the British Museum in London put this at the center of an exhibition about 2 years ago. Yeah. And it was in a glass case, and it constantly had a queue of people going past it, staring at it. And they called it the Nebra Sky Disc. Yeah, that's its name. And it shows a manifestation of the lights. You can see the sun and the moon at the center, and there's this, like, they call this the boat underneath. And this here and this here are called the handholds. That's what the archaeologists call it. Coming from the place of archaeology, not spirituality. The handholds. So you've got the two lights, yeah, the sun and the moon manifesting, yeah, which is in astrology, the sun rules the right eye and the moon rules the left eye. Yeah. So it's a disc of the sky, the handholds. And the boat underneath is floating through space. When I look down, it vanishes, yeah, into space. So it's like as I look out into the world around me, I've got stars, yeah, manifesting. I've got lights, and the spherical edge. I'm inside my own sphere. So that's a Neolithic manifestation of the geocentric space that we are in. That's how I see it. Now, for astrologers, this is called the Thema Mundi, which is the first chart of the world. And as you can see, it's got the moon and the sun as the two lights, and then all the other planets stretching out. But if you're not astrologers, it doesn't make sense. But well, it does. I mean, I'd have to explain astrology to you. But it's the order of the planets moving outwards. And then this is a very famous British astrologer called William Lilly, who in his most famous book called Christian Astrology, he wrote a book called Christian Astrology in the 17th century, around the time of the Great Fire of London. He wrote an incredible, he about 30 years before the Great Fire, he published a book, so in the 1600s. As thou daily conversest with the heavens, plural, so instruct and form thy mind according to the image of divinity. So the imago, the image, the imagination, to instruct and form your mind according to the image that you receive, yeah, of the divinity, of your connection to the creation, to God, goddess. And so that's the ancient traditional astrological viewpoint. And then we have the Dendera temple in Egypt, temple of Hathor, I believe, in Egypt. And here, what are they doing? Well, they're holding up an image of the whole world. That's the whole sky as a disc. But they're supporting the disc like this, because they are aware of their sphere. They're in their sphere around them. They're holding it up. And it's being held up by the
Dendera zodiac.
Yes, it's being held up by the falcon god. Yeah, Ra.
Yeah.
The falcon-headed god. So he's repeated all the way around.
Yeah.
And what do falcons do? Falcons fly in circles.
Yeah.
So they fly in circles, and their world is manifesting in them as they fly around in a circle. So they are pure awareness, yeah, circling around, waiting for something to trigger their consciousness. And that's a mouse or whatever down below. Mm-hmm. So they'll circle around as a pure form of awareness, and then they'll go, there's something. Off they go to get it. But they're circling. They fly in circles. Falcons fly in circles.
It's very interesting because it's the first in shamanism. It's the first experience of awareness you have to gain is the awareness of the eagle, because you're observing.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's the number one rule.
Absolutely. And what you're doing here is what I've shown you today is you're observing your thoughts arising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then you have, there we go. So you're talking about the sun disk and things. There's Falcon Ra with the disk, the void, the no thing.
Mm.
And these are like all the 7 planetary spheres clustered around it, like the wings, the feathers. And an Ankh, the Ankh symbol yeah, is like a no thing at center. There's a void at the center with the arms out,
Yeah.
arms out, supporting a no thing at center. Yeah. So that's as well. I quite like this little hieroglyph here of the dude kind of got his hands up around the star, doing this, yeah, at what appears to be a star, which is light. Yeah? So, yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert any of this, I'm not an academic, but I've just taken intuition and pieced things together. I might go academic. I might actually really try and study this and turn it into something, but I'd rather do it like this, which is more a sort of well-being guide really for the new age. And then you have, these are in the Louvre in Paris. So it's 3 Egyptian deities, Horus, being one of them. But what are they doing? Yeah, they're pointing at their own space that they're looking out at. Now, archaeologists say they're pointing at their mouths because they're hungry. They're pointing at their space.
Why would they be hungry? Oh, it's just ridiculous.
Well, you know what I mean, right?
Odds. Yeah.
This is to me obvious to say go geocentric. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you go geocentric, your mind
Look within.
can then manifest.
Yeah.
And this is manifestations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the void,
Mm-hmm.
many things can occur.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Here's another. Again, this is the flow. Look how the hands are up. Yeah.
Yeah.
The eyes are wide. Yeah. Often I think in ancient art, if the eyes were very big and highlighted with lots of like eyeliner and big and wide, it meant they were being geocentric. It represent geocentricity. And so hands up here, showing the sphere, the boats, yeah, on each side, yeah, that indicate floating through space, yeah, because when you do this, you are floating through space, right? And then you have the zodiac signs all going down the sides here. This is the 12 zodiac signs. But that's again, it's yeah, but it just shows you the idea of being at one center.
Yeah. The world is out. Yeah. You're inside the globe, the sphere.
Yeah. This is called the lunar staircase, and it's in the temple of it's in the temple of Hathor, where the Dendera zodiac is. This is called the lunar staircase. And so it's manifestations, I think, of the phases of the moon. And this is the full moon here, which is like a mirror. Because it's like on a stand, like a mirror. That's an empty mirror. And then Thoth is again doing the single eye awareness, this, yeah? The sphere. So it's basically saying, different perspectives. You can have different perspectives, yeah. And then you reach up and you get to the sphere of moon,
different phases of the moon,
the complete mirror of the moon, the eye, single eye. Here's the single eye. Yeah, the third eye. It's 2 eyes, eye of Horus, single eye. Yeah. And then Thoth showing how to do it there as well. And then another hieroglyph that just shows putting the hands up. Again, I don't do hieroglyphs, but And then we have what appears, I think it's Chinese or Asian, but you've got here someone holding it's like a mirror. They're holding up the mirror of awareness, so they're holding up their single eye, and around them the 4 spirits, or maybe the 4 elements manifesting different. They're wearing different trousers, there's water, earth, probably fire, air, something like that. Air, fire. That's it. Fire's red, isn't it? So air. And yeah, and everything kind of spirals around, spiraling. It's just a space that one is in. And here we have ancient English, medieval, supporting the zodiac, the space. There they are. They're holding it up. They're all showing their single eye, but they look a bit like labored by it, like it's a heavy. But this is the UK, it's a completely different way of looking at things. But there they are, holding it up, sort of monks or whatever they are, holding up the sphere, yeah. And then a Roman mosaic, which is the zodiac. You can see the 12 signs of the zodiac, but this character in the center is the bit that's really interesting. So I've zoomed in on that. There we go. And got a halo. Now, if you go into churches and you see stained glass windows with the saints and the angels, and they've all got halos, haven't they, all around them? The halo. What is the halo? Well, the halo is the single eye. It's the third eye of awareness, because you've entered into a space. Because what you find, if you do this all the time, it's very good for the heart chakra. It opens out, one becomes more compassionate, more empathic, more tolerant of all things that the space one finds oneself in. It's basically a heart opening to love as well, by doing this. Yeah. You completely enter, because the world manifests in you. And so everybody you come across and you meet is a manifestation of your experience,
your awareness,
of your awareness at center, and then consciousness growing out of it. Out of awareness grows the consciousness. So here's a halo, and the character's touching the edge, touching the edge of the sphere. Ding, there it is. And then just outside of that makes up the zodiac. Yeah, the zodiac signs. There's like pointing out, and these are like beams of light, and what seems to be another sphere that he's supporting with his hand.
Is he frozen?
These as being geocentric. And then probably my favorite one is Shiva, because Shiva is dancing in the void. Yeah. And that's amazing. That's the void I've just shown you. There it is. And so Shiva creates and destroys simultaneously, creation and destruction in the void.
I was thinking of that sort of depiction with all the arms and stuff.
Brilliant.
The arms.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. And you can see he's in front of it. Yeah, he's in front of it. He's not inside the void. He's in front of it. Yeah. So that space that we are in is our ego identity, our third. We can act. We're first person. But we can then. You can flip between one and the other. At choice. I think I'll be spiritual today, so I'll flip into my third eye mode. Otherwise, I'll just be myself as usual. I'll just express my ego identity as we're meant to. Yeah. But then you can choose to go into the void or into that space, and so it becomes like a regular spiritual practice. And this is like moving outwards, from the center outwards, one at center. Again, the void is the great mystery. Out of chaos, comes order, but the order of the world around us. Everything manifests between my hands, in the space around me, and outwards and wide. And this is Karnak in France, one of the megalithic tombs, and I find it quite interesting because this is the point of awareness. Behind is the empty void, and then looking out into the world is the manifestation of all things. So these are the things, and it repeats again and again and again. So I think this is a sort of Neolithic artwork of what I've been trying to show you today. This is the great no thing, but then stood in front of it is my experience. My five senses are here, and I'm looking into the world using my five senses, where I find things. So it's like the experiment I showed you, but in Neolithic terms, megalithic culture, saying the same thing. It happens every year. It happens again, cyclically, again and again, all the time. Things happen. And in Japan, they have Zen, of course. And by staying still and calm at one center, one can observe, the world manifesting to like the big illusion. So stay centered and grounded like stones at the center and watch it all. Just watch it all. Just watch, just observe and see your thoughts arising. Again, the movement of time and the flow of time by staying centered. Shakespeare had the Globe Theatre. Now, why did he call it the Globe? Yeah, because he was in his globe. Yeah, like a sphere. And this is how they used to think about in the Renaissance. So in the Midsummer's Night's Dream, he says, the poet's eye is glancing from heaven to earth, from earth to heaven. And as imagination bodies forth the forms of things unknown, the poet's pen turns them to shapes and gives to airy nothing a local habitation and a name. So this is Shakespeare basically stating the law of attraction and the law of manifestation. Okay, because imagination bodies forth, means my imagination will create something. It'll create a physical form, bodies forth. The forms of things unknown, what previously was unknown, just in my mind alone, then my pen can turn them, or my quality to manifest, can turn it into shapes and gives to what was a nothing, a no thing, manifested a local habitation, a place to be, and a name, an object. I'll give it a name. So this is like everything I've shown you today. We did the pointing outwards experiments, objects around us. That was giving local habitation and a name. Yeah. We've looked at the idea of what thoughts arising as thoughts flow up into my consciousness. What can I do with them? So many ideas all the time. But in doing so, I'm glancing from heaven to earth and earth to heaven. As above, so below, and so below is as above. As within is so without, and as without is so within. Yeah? So the Midsummer's Night Dream shows the globe. This is Shakespeare's Enlightenment, if you like. And then again, it's throughout Shakespeare, by the way. It's like every single play has got something in it, all the sonnets. But at the prologue to Henry V, oh, for a muse of fire, the fire, there's the creative fire. Right? I'm not talking about flames and burning. I'm talking about creative fire and energy. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend, moving upwards and outwards, the brightest heaven of invention. Here are the heavens of invention. A kingdom for a stage, a primum mobile, the kingdom, the realm that we're in. Princes to act, again, you're looking at these kind of all the different actors, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. And we are our own monarch. One is you are your own, you are sitting in the divine throne of your own making. When you think geocentrically and act geocentrically, you are at the center of your own divinity, and therefore you are the king or the queen of your sitting on your divine throne. You are your own monarch. To behold the swelling scene, that is to say, things that are changing all the time. Everything is moving and swelling around inside your sphere, your scene. So the question I ask you now is, can you now attain the highest peaks of creativity and imagination? You've seen the techniques. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you've enjoyed this today, I must please urge you to buy my book for some more information. And I also do readings of charts. I do chart readings, and I have talismans. These are highly charged magical items. So if you want luck and good fortune, I have Jupiter here and Venus here. These are two magical charged talismans made out of the alchemical metal tin. And so these are highly charged. So you can use the planetary hour system to wish for more luck and good fortune using these. Venus for love and luck, Jupiter for expansion and good fortune. I'll tell you everything about these if you contact me. So please visit my website, and let me just find that for you. Hang on a minute. My website is, if I can just find it, London Astrologer. So I'll just share the screen with him. So I'm londonastrologer.co.uk. Okay, that's my website. And please, first thing to do when you visit is to go down and subscribe to my free newsletter. So put your email in here. It's on the bottom of every page of my website. Then you'll get discount readings and you'll get newsletters, all sorts of interesting bits and pieces from me. And then you can book a reading. You can read my blog, which is getting more towards the divine order. The more I discover about it, the more I'm writing towards it. I teach astrology, and in my shop here, you have my book to buy, Jupiter Talismans, Venus Talismans. Buy friends a gift card. I've got some videos to watch where you can see me talking about this. And if you send me a copy of this, by the way, Jade, then I'll
Yes, I will, absolutely, yeah.
please do.
Yeah.
And then I have a few different articles I've been published in different magazines, mostly astrology. But now I'm combining my astrology with spirituality. So my new direction is to combine astrology with this new spiritual insights.